But actually now, Jake Paul has got to think about what he's doing next. If you're that good and you think you're clever, why don't you fight Usyk? Alexander Usyk, he'll fight you. Let's see how that works out for you. You get flattened. Game over.
And the number 14 cruiserweight in the world, according to the WBA. This is an absolute mockery. It's an absolute disgrace. It's a total piss take.
Able to fight voluntarily to defend their championship against Jake Paul. Which, if I'm being honest, that's kind of crazy, bro. Isn't that crazy? Right? You're telling me you fought somebody that's not a natural cruiserweight, right?
Boxing pros and fans alike are furious at the WBA's shocking decision to rank Jake Paul in the top 15 cruiserweights. Many see this as a slap in the face to hard-working fighters who've dedicated years to the sport. Jake Paul has not faced a single credible opponent, only retired fighters or unknown names that offered no real challenge. This move by the WBA has sparked calls for a boycott, with boxing insiders demanding fairness and integrity in the ranking system. They believe rewarding fame over genuine skill damages the sport's reputation and disrespects true contenders fighting for.
So I've just found out that Jake Paul, the YouTuber influencer who has been doing a bit of boxing against people who aren't boxers, aside from Tommy Fury, who is a complete novice boxer, and an old retired champion in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who has been through rehab and all kinds of stuff, been out of the ring for quite a while, an OAP Mike Tyson, who physically is in a terrible place, and two now inactive cruiserweights called Andre August and Ryan Borland, who I have absolutely no idea who they are. I've just found out that that's what qualifies you as the number 14 cruiserweight in the world, according to the WBA. This is an absolute mockery. It's an absolute disgrace. It's a total piss take. I've been in the middle of making another video about Hamza Shiraz and Edgar Berlanga, and I've had to just stop what I'm doing and make a reaction to this. And I'm just going to go in raw here because I'm absolutely furious. I'm absolutely furious. Like, this is the sort of shit that we have to deal with as boxing fans. Everybody in this sport, and I call it a sport because that's exactly what it is, tries to treat it like it's just a business, like it's just a way of lining their back pockets. You cannot tell me in any world that Jake Paul has done enough to be ranked as the number 14 cruiserweight in the entire world. And I want to be really clear from the off, this isn't actually an attack on Jake Paul's boxing ability, because that's not what this is about. It's about, what have you done to show me you're the 14th best cruiserweight in the world? Because for all I know, you might put him in there and he might do really bloody well, but that's not the point. You have to earn that position. How can you have earned that position? By fighting a bunch of influencers, athletes from other sports, and having lost to one of the only active boxers that you've actually faced, in Tommy Fury, who very much is a part-time boxer at this point in his life. And then your most recent and highest profile win being against a guy who didn't throw a bloody punch for the first half of the fight.
Boxing fans are outraged after Happy Punch shared the news. Jake Paul is now officially ranked the number 14 cruiserweight in the world by the WBA and eligible to challenge Zordo Ramirez for the title. Many believe Jake doesn't deserve this ranking since he hasn't faced a serious credible opponent yet. His fights have mostly been against retired boxers or unknown fighters, leading to widespread criticism of the WBA's decision. The decision to place Jake Paul among the top 15 cruiserweights has left professional boxers and dedicated fans stunned. For years, genuine contenders have fought tooth and nail to earn their rankings through grueling bouts and relentless training. Now, these athletes are in an awkward position. They may have to voluntarily fight Jake Paul to protect their titles and reputations from the threat of a YouTuber-turned-boxer who has leapfrogged the traditional path of merit. The outrage is understandable as this move...
Guy can now win a world title. Jake Paul, after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., has now been moved to number 14 in the WBA official rankings, meaning he can be a voluntary defence for Zurdo Gilberto Ramirez's world title. But this is now where we need to beg the question of what is wrong with these rankings, because there is no world where Jake Paul is the 14th best cruiserweight. What do we do? What's boxing got to do to save this? Is it go to a one belt division like the UFC have, or is it just for the divisions that we've got and the belts that we've got to actually just sort themselves out? Make sure you subscribe for the updates, we'll keep it coming, but this is mental.
The backlash intensified as many insiders accused the WBA of prioritizing profit over principle. Granting Jake Paul such a ranking seems less about his achievements in the ring and more about the financial windfall he brings. By doing this, the organization has risked its credibility in the eyes of seasoned fighters who worked their way up by facing true challenges. Many believe that the cruiserweight title scene has been tainted with business interests overshadowing sporting values. Champions now see their hard-earned...
After defeating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., the WBA decided to give Jake Paul a ranking. According to them, he's the 14th best cruiserweight boxer in the world. I know they're trying to push him for a title shot and it's the show business and whatnot, but you're disrespecting all the cruiserweight boxers with this one. And to even be ranked, aren't you supposed to actually defeat someone who's ranked? Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. hasn't been ranked in years.
Due to this decision, Jake Paul's triumph against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. undoubtedly boosted his standing in boxing circles. What was once brushed off as a novelty act has now morphed into a genuine campaign to climb the ranks. Jake's win opened doors for him, putting him in a position where title holders can no longer look the other way. His ability to silence doubters and force the boxing establishment to acknowledge him shows how effectively he has flipped the script. Yet, many argue that this elevation came too easily considering the circumstances.
So now that Jake Paul won his fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he's apparently ranked top 15 cruiserweights in the world. And apparently, I guess now, world champions are able to fight voluntarily to defend their championship against Jake Paul. Which, if I'm being honest, that's kind of crazy, bro. Isn't that crazy? Right? You're telling me you fought somebody that's not a natural cruiserweight, right? And now you're automatically ranked top 15 and you could fight a couple of world champions and it makes sense. Not that I think he beats any of them. I'm going to be completely honest. I can't see it, bro. If Jake ends up beating somebody, yo, shout out to him. He finessed his way to the fucking top and a world champion and really like cemented himself into the history books. But the way that he boxes, he's just very sluggish. It's kind of slow. You know, I think any cruiserweight world champion, even Badu Jack, will defeat him. And I actually don't even understand why he even wants to fight Anthony Joshua, besides the bag, obviously. But what do you guys think, though? This whole shit has gone crazy.
Critics of Jake's rise point out that his victory over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was far from impressive. Julio, once a respected fighter, offered little in the way of resistance. Throughout the match, he resembled more of a stationary target than an active competitor. The lack of meaningful offense from Julio made Jake's task far easier, turning what should have been a true test into what many described as a glorified sparring session. Praising Jake for such a win feels hollow to fans who expect real battles.
He did not throw barely any punches for the first half of the fight.
More than half. First 8 rounds, you might say.
Yeah, and a little life at the end, but too late when he knew the fight was winding down on time. I say this, that it was hard for me to gauge the performance of Jake Paul. It's essentially a sparring session, and I'm trying to see, is he continuing, is he developing, is he getting better? And off of this fight, it was hard to gauge when you're fighting a puncher bag, but then towards the end of the fight, I thought he was exposed. The stamina started to dip. The defense wasn't tight. There was some technical flaws. You could find them. You could hit them. In the end, he gets a decision. He gets another win. He keeps his show moving on. What'd you make of this fight? What'd you think of Jake Paul and his performance overall?
Making no excuses for Jake Paul. Give him credit for what he's done with his career, with his promotion, with his business, with his dream. Give him credit. Give the guy credit. God almighty, he takes risks.
Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.'s reputation for underperformance was no secret. Even during the peak of his career, he often failed to meet expectations, frustrating fans and analysts alike. Add to that his personal struggles, including time spent in rehab, and it becomes clear that he was far from his best when he faced Jake Paul. Many believe Jake's camp selected Julio for this reason, knowing that a win against a faded name would fast-track him into the rankings. This strategic matchmaking has fueled
Chavez Jr. One guy performed, one guy did what he was supposed to do, brought the fight in, and one guy just didn't. And if I'm talking about Jake Paul and a former world champion, you'd think that what I'm about to say favors the former world champion. And then you realize I'm talking about Chavez Jr., and then you say, no, well, okay, we have to flip those because Chavez Jr. is known for disappointing on the biggest stage, and that's what happened again here. I cannot tell you how disappointed I am in watching Chavez Jr. over the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounds throw a total of 36 punches. I didn't say land. That's not what I said. I said throw. Chavez Jr. threw 36 punches over 5 rounds. And out of the 36 he threw, he landed 8. 8 punches through 5 rounds. 15 through 6. 20 through 7. He landed 20 punches through 7 rounds.
Rayo Vallenula's praise for Jake Paul's performance provided some validation within the boxing community. As a fighter who understands the demands of the sport, Rayo's acknowledgement suggested that Jake's efforts shouldn't be entirely dismissed. His comments indicated that Jake's improvement in the ring has been noticed by fellow athletes. However, supporters of the sport still question whether a single win over an underwhelming opponent should justify a top 15 ranking or whether Rio's words reflected sportsmanship rather than genuine endorsement of Jake's place in the division.